Sen. John McCain Rares. Ab photo Manuel Balche Seneta. The Senate approved the Republican proposed budget Thursday night, a major step forward for the GOP effort to enact tax cuts. The budget, which now moves to the House, is projected to expand the deficit by $1.5 trillion over 10 years. Its passage will allow the GOP to use a procedural maneuver to pass tax legislation through the Senate with 50 or more votes, removing the need for support from Democratic senators. Tax cuts that have become Republicans' essential policy objective since the Senate failed to pass multiple bills to rewrite Obamacare. Approval of the budget is expected to help shore up ties between Senate GOP leaders and President Trump, who is angry at Republicans' failure on health care and bent on Congress approving a tax reform package by the end of the year. At the same time, by agreeing to the $1.5 trillion tax cut, Senate Republicans have officially moved the party far away from its promised goal of ensuring that the tax plan would not add to the deficit. The White House and House Republicans had vowed that the tax cuts would be offset with new revenue from the elimination of certain deductions, but that is no longer the GOP's goal. Instead, they have abandoned long-standing party orthodoxy of deficit reduction and are seeking a political win after months of frustration on Capitol Hill. House and Senate leaders, with White House encouragement, were in discussions about making last-minute adjustments to the Senate budget resolution that would allow them to bypass having a conference committee that could drag on for weeks. If House leaders were pleased with the Senate changes, they could simply vote on the precise language in the final Senate resolution, allowing them to pivot directly to the tax cut negotiations in the coming weeks. Political pressure is on the GOP leaders' side. Republicans cannot cut taxes without first passing the budget resolution, giving them a strong incentive to support it. Trump had projected confidence about the Senate's ability to approve a budget Thursday night. "I think we have the votes for the budget, which will be phase one of our massive tax cuts and reform," Trump said during a meeting with Puerto Rican Gov. Ricardo Rossello. "But I think we'll be successful tonight with respect to the budget. I think we have the votes. And frankly, I think we have the votes for the tax cuts, which will follow fairly shortly thereafter." The vote came after just over 6 hours of amendment votes in which Democrats sought to call attention to controversial aspects of the GOP tax plan. Democrats focused on 4 key tax reform topics intended to make Republicans cast politically awkward votes: tax cuts for the wealthy, tax increases for the middle class, reductions to Medicare and Medicaid spending, and increases to the budget deficit. Sen. Heidi Heitkamp DND proposed an amendment to prevent tax increases on people making less than $250,000 a year. The measure would have also required the Senate to approve a tax reform bill with 60 votes rather than a simple majority. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Mike Ndrwyo called this language a poison pill, and the amendment was defeated 5,147. Several Republican amendments were adopted with broad support. Sen. Jeff Flake Rares proposed language to make the American tax system simpler and fairer for all Americans, which passed 980. Sen. Marco Rubio RFLA proposed an amendment in support of increasing the child tax credit, which passed by voice vote, meaning it was approved without any senator raising a sen. Rand Paul RKY, one of the most vocal GOP critics of the party's budget, proposed several measures to lower the deficit. His amendments were defeated. On the Republican side, defense hawks were ready to use the amendment process to highlight their priorities. Sen. John McCain Rares, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, offered an amendment to ensure increases in federal defense spending are prioritized over increases in spending in other areas. "Defense and non-defense are not of the same urgency," he told reporters Thursday. "We have men and women serving in the military today who are being wounded and killed because they're not sufficiently funded, armed, trained and equipped." It had been unclear which other Republicans, if any, planned to vote against the budget. As of this week, several who had threatened to oppose it seemed more or less on board. Sen. Bob Corker of Tennessee told reporters Monday he had reservations about the eventual tax reform proposal but was fine voting for the budget resolution to allow the process to move forward. "I voted for the resolution out of committee," he noted. Sen. Lisa Murkowski-Walaska, whose opposition helped block the GOP healthcare bills, said Monday she was leaning toward voting yes, but would decide after the bill goes through the amendment process. Sen. Susan Collins Armain, another key opponent of the healthcare bills, said Sunday during an interview with ABC News that she is likely a yes. Paul said Tuesday that his support hinged on cutting the $43 billion in overseas war funding desired by McCain and Sen. Lindsey O'Graham RSC, arguing the amount goes against the federal budget caps established in 2011. The GOP appeared to win enough votes to pass its budget Tuesday when McCain threw his support behind the proposal, saying it would provide a path forward on tax reform. The return of Sen. Thad Cochran miss from a health-related absence added to leaders' confidence they have the votes for passage. Republicans control 52 of the Senate's 100 seats, meaning they could lose 2 votes from their own party and still pass the budget. Without Cochran, Republicans would have been able to lose only 1 vote. Damian Paletta, Karen DeMiken and Ann Gearan contributed to this report.